Listen up, stories from the Northwest Corner.
So, I would probably go with this, what is your favorite memory of a national park question, because I think you have at least one, if not more than one.
This favorite memory might also be my most unique experience, because Ben and I met in Olympic National Park, and I was a new backcountry ranger, and Ben was a somewhat veteran at this point trail crew worker. And as a park ranger, you kind of hear about trail crews in your area, and you get all set up to deal with people being in your ranger station and working in your area and having to share your kitchen. And so I was not really that pleased that they were going to be working in my area. And I had to also carry all my food in the backcountry. So for my 10 days that I worked on, I had to puff everything in, and the trail crew gets stock support, so the horses and the mules bring theirs. So I was kind of a bit of a fit when I hiked in, and I have to clean up all the outhouses and the do work on the trail. It's like brushing, sort of not the big work that the trail crew does, and I also have to clean fire pits and stuff. So by the time I get 13 miles into my ranger station in Enchanted Valley in Quinault, I'm sweaty, I'm gross, covered in soot, and kind of, carrying this huge pack that I thumped down on the porch of my ranger station, and I could see people in my ranger station. I was like, okay, just be ready to be pleasant. And I walk in, and the person at my sink, which I consider my sink, which of course is just a ranger station sink, it doesn't belong to anybody, it's everybody's sink, is Ben. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And I said, oh, I'm fine. And he shakes my hand. And first of all, he has these lovely blue eyes. So I was like, oh, he has really nice blue eyes. And then he shook my hand. He has a really nice, solid handshake. I was like, oh, that's nice. And I'm thinking, okay, now I have to make my dinner. And it's probably 7 at night, and I've hiked all day. And I'm not too pleased about having to make dinner, because I know these guys have been cooking for hours, all their fresh vegetables and their meat. And I've got my dehydrated soup or whatever. And, so I'm kind of, trying to make my space, and they're all being quite respectful. And there was like 5 or 6 trail crew people there, and they were all getting out of my way. And Ben said, well, I made some soup. Would you like some soup? And I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. I was like, oh, that's so nice. And he goes, yeah, here you go. I just, cooked it up today, and it's pea soup. And he made split pea soup with ham hock. I mean, I don't know how he even made it out there, but he made this amazing soup. But the first thing I thought was, oh no, I hate pea soup. But I was so hungry, and I wasn't about to say that after I said, right. Yeah, that's great. So I ate it, and it was the only time in my life I ever ate pea soup that I actually liked pea soup. It was delicious. And he had 2 giant bowls, and I ate the one bowl like in probably 30 seconds flat. And he's like, would you like another bowl? And I was like, yes, please. So that was the beginning. And then I ended up working with the trail crew, because I came from Sequoia National Park to Olympic, and in Sequoia, as a park ranger, if you're in the backcountry and the trail crew's in your area, you sort of are encouraged to go work with them or help them out or do whatever. So I just followed them around, which they thought was a little weird. And I'm huffing, logs and rocks, and they're like, patting me on the shoulder going, good job, Hannah, because I'm doing like nano amounts of work compared to them. But they liked that. And then Ben and I spent time talking into the wee hours, and, deciding that we thought each other was okay. And then he left, and after he left, there was a box in my ranger station that had been his food box, and it had his address on it. So I wrote a little letter, and I sent it out with a hiker saying, hi, it was really nice to meet you. And simultaneously, he was home writing me a letter that he was mailing to my ranger station. So then when I got out of the backcountry, I had a letter from him, and when he got home, within days, and he knew I was still in the backcountry, he got a letter from me. He's like, wait a minute, she's not out of the backcountry yet. So that was the beginning of our now 20-year, yeah.
We had never met, so that was when we had initially met, was that day.
Yeah, that's cool. So. That's adorable.
I know, but I didn't know anything about Ben.
Correct.
But you?
Well, there's a logbook in the ranger station, and they write every day and tell about what they had done that day, and visitor contacts, and things that happen in the area. And I had been, there's not a lot to do up there when you're not working, so I had been reading the logbook, and I really enjoyed her writing and her stories, and she made all these little emojis of
word emojis.
They were
yeah.
they were word emojis. I probably did faces too.
No, you did a lot of faces.
I did a lot of
There were
faces.
grumpy faces and happy faces and angry faces. And, so I
It made
kind
up
of got
words.
to know her a little bit that way through reading those. So.
My favorite memories of this park here is always beautiful. You can't beat this one for scenery and stuff. It's just wonderful.
Do you have a favorite national park?
Only because of memories with my grandpa and my dad and stuff. I would say the Olympic National Park. But I went on a road trip. I took my kids. They were so little. My youngest was like 6 months, and I took my mom. She'd had a heart attack the year before, and she'd always want to go on a road trip. And so I shoved them all in our little motorhome, and me and my mom and the 3 kids took off and went down like through Idaho and Montana, the Yellowstone, and then we cut through the Tetons, like at the top of Wyoming. And I just went outside, and the Tetons are kind of amazingly beautiful. I had never seen anything so rugged before in real life.
Bill, what's your favorite park, would you say? I know you like the parks in the Southwest because they're different and new to us, but
I don't know. I like them all.
What was your favorite memory of a national park?
My favorite memory was Nature Bridge. This year my 6th grade class, we got to go out to Lake Crescent National Park, and my favorite part was we got to go out to the beach and we made a map of the Olympic Peninsula using like sticks and trees and branches, and that was really fun.
How about what is your favorite memory of a national park?
You know, it's kind of funny because it's actually a most recent memory, and that was at Nature Bridge with my youngest daughter, Anne. And having grown up here, you know, right at the base of the mountains and in the park all around us, I was kind of surprised that my youngest daughter had a great experience through not only the leadership of the Institute, you know, leaders, but getting out into the park was something that was really exciting for her. And so being able to watch the park happen through her eyes, for me, was really a unique experience.
What is your favorite national park you visited?
Well, my favorite, I think, is a standard one for a lot of people, but it's Grand Canyon. My husband and I lived in Arizona for 23 years. And our first, the second year actually, we lived down there. We had 7 visits to the Grand Canyon, a company that came to visit.
How long was it before you went back again?
Well, it wasn't actually all that long. But we had a pretty crowded year that one year. Probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite national park?
Well, for me, I would have to say Yosemite, just because I spent quite a number of weekends there again when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. We went there with the kids a few years ago and saw a little bit of it, but it was a very short stay. I think for me, I mean, Yellowstone's amazing. Yellowstone was amazing to me. There's just so much to see there, and it's so primeval in a lot of ways. It's just so different from anything else you see anywhere. But Olympic's pretty cool too. It's got everything: the ocean, the mountains, the lakes, you name it.
What is your favorite memory of a national park?
Well, I don't know if I'd go with memory so much. I'd go with a feeling. Because when at different parks, I've actually felt different things. I've gone through several different experiences when climbing to top of a peak or to going along the ocean shore. feeling that sense of peace and almost like the world could continue and I didn't need to go anywhere else.
Talking about this with a friend, and we were talking about, it's like, what do you want to get out of it? Could be what you ask yourself when you try to pick a favorite national park. Yellowstone blew my mind in terms of wildlife and geothermal features. Never seen anything like that. And so it kind of it's had this huge impression on me. So it's tempting to call that my favorite national park. But there's so many things I love about other parks I've worked at or visited that Yellowstone doesn't have. So I can't say it's like the ultimate national park. So the crazy, amazing views, Yosemite National Park, being in the valley, Yosemite Valley, and looking up and seeing, Half Dome and El Capitan and all the waterfall. It's incredible. One of my favorite things about Olympic is how you can find solitude in the summer, which a lot of national parks in summertime, you can't find solitude hardly at all. So Olympic really delivers on that, and being able to go from the beach up to the mountains and then into the rainforest, it's incredible. So even just Saturday, we were snowboarding up on Hurricane Ridge, and as we were coming down, I thought, we could go surfing now. If we were up for the drive, we could go surfing all in one day.
So I get inspired by the fact that even though my life is harried or my life has deadlines or I feel definitely finite in my lifespan, I'm inspired when I go there and I look and I realize, that hilltop over there has probably looked that way since the glaciers receded, and it's probably going to look that way pretty much until at least after I'm dead. So, do those animals up there get ulcers over, a frozen water pipe or a work deadline? Do they have angst over unfulfilled dreams or frustrations? No. And so that's kind of calming and inspiring for me that our natural world is fairly stable most of the time, and it goes about its life pretty much the same way it did last year this time and the previous year and the previous season. So that's kind of calming for me, and it does help me put things in perspective sometimes. A year from now or a decade from now, is any of this really going to matter? Is that going to change that landscape? Probably not. Okay, I can go back and not worry.
I was scheduled to lead a snowshoe walk, and my supervisor, Ted, kind of had this grin on his face as he was telling me about this group, because they were coming from a juvenile detention facility. So they were bringing up this group of kids that had been in trouble, and he had led the walks before. And so he had this kind of grin on his face because he was thinking that I was going to be having quite an experience with these kids. And it turned out that I did, but probably not for the reasons that Ted might have been thinking. So we're sitting in the Longmire Museum, and there's this one area where the rangers stand, and it's sort of surrounded by glass on three sides. And you can look out and see the parking lot, and in pulls this van from the facility. And the van stops, and stops, and instantly the doors fly open, and 7 of these kids come running out of and there's huge mounds of snow all over the parking lot, and they're running up to the tops of the mounds of the snow, and they're having snowball fights. And Ted is just looking at me, and he's kind of grinning, and he's like, "There's your group," And so the teacher that was with him, he corralled his kids together, and they brought them into the visitor center. And what they had done in the past is they've always would go around this really nature trail around the Longmire Meadows with groups, with student groups and things like that. But that trail is like really flat and it's not very, and I was like, this is not going to work with these kids. And so we put the snowshoes on, and I think the only chance that I'm going to have with these kids is I'm going to have to like wear them down so that they will be able to like listen. And so we put our snowshoes on, and then I just take off as fast as I can up the trail that leads from Longmire up to Paradise. And I went for maybe 15 minutes as fast as I could up this trail, and the kids, and we pulled off to the side of the trail, and the kids all caught up to me and they all fell down on the snow. And we're all like breathing really, really hard. But that, I think, was the perfect thing to do because it allowed them just to get the excitement out and get the energy out. The other thing I remember about that day is that it was just a beautiful day. The rain and the snow finally stopped and the sun came out, and there was fresh snow on all of the trees and blue skies, and it was just absolutely amazing. And so from that point on, I took them off of the trail, and we started to go down through the woods to go down to the Nisqually River. And we went down through the woods, and we stopped, and we did a listening exercise where I had the kids all just sort of lay down or be still. And we stopped and we just listened for a while. And I don't know if those kids had ever heard or took the time to listen to sort of natural sounds. And it wasn't very long at all. It was maybe a minute that we did it for.
Seeing elk in the Ho. Mm-hmm. First time I went into the Ho, watched elk, move through the lichen and the moss. That's a picture that's really stuck with me. Mm-hmm. I'd seen it in pictures, but to see it in real life was super powerful. And we're heading into Grand Teton National Park, into the Alaska Basin, and before we went out, they warned us that there's moose, and that one of the moose has a young with her, and she's really aggressive. Mm-hmm. But they made it sound like we'll be fine, and we're like, okay, we can do this. We've never seen a moose before, but I guess we'll be fine. And we start heading out, and on the way we see these huge moose tracks where I put my sunglasses in them and could see how small my head was compared to their feet. It started making me a little bit nervous, but we're like, okay, it's gonna be fine. And we're walking, and we turn a corner, and there's a moose just staring right at us, like she heard us coming a mile away. Mm-hmm. And I'd never seen anything like that. We didn't really know how to react. I remember my dad, in an effort to try to protect me, did that whole seatbelt arm thing, and he nearly knocked me down the Clallam ravine. But then we got our senses together, and she laid down, and we're like, okay, we can just go around her. But that moment of encountering an animal like that could just trample us changed my life. And going the next few days, we got into Yellowstone National Park. We saw bison. We woke up the first morning. There was a bunch of people photographing toward my housing. And we realized that between us and the people, there's this big pasture. There was a grizzly sow with her cub of the year walking around. And right next to my housing, And mm-hmm. It's just that feeling of being small and being in something really much bigger than myself. And realizing that I could be killed by an animal, by a wild animal, mm-hmm. and not, and it's not a great chance that you would be, but just that feeling when you're hiking, to be more aware and to feel like you're small in this big world is incredible, and it's stuck with me.
To hear all of the Listen Up interviews and to view the Burt Kellogg photo collection online, visit the Washington Rural Heritage website.